welcome to CKA in Your Kitchen, Culinary Kids Academy special edition of Shalom CKA. This is Chef Zoe.
Hi.
Everybody say hello. I'm Chef Danny. We're going to be doing a really fun Passover class today with the Seders coming up soon. We're all stuck in our houses. What better way to celebrate the holiday than to make something really important for the Seder plate? But in my house, we don't only eat it on the Seder plate. This is so good that we eat it during the actual meal. We are going to be making Charoset today, learning a little bit about the Exodus story, and providing you with a little bit of insight about what you can do to kind of step forward in your society, in your home, to make the world around you a better place. Before we do that, we're going to introduce you to Chef Laney. Chef Laney is standing by with your questions that you have sent in. We got your questions over the course of the last week. Everybody say hi to Chef Laney. Hi, Chef Laney. Wave. Hi. We're on a little bit of a delay, but that's okay. So Chef Laney is taking your questions. You've sent them in because we've let you know what we're making. We've let you know what the lesson is going to be about. And so we're going to talk about what I like to call an unsung hero in the story. Everybody knows the major players. Everybody knows, obviously, Moses, right? And Aaron, and Pharaoh, right? Mm-hmm. And God, obviously. But there's one person that a lot of people don't know about, which is kind of an unsung hero. So we're going to talk about that and how you can kind of emulate this person in your own lives to make the world around you a better place and to make your Seder a very special event. Especially, it's going to be different for all of us, don't you think, this year? It's going to be different. We're stuck in our houses. It's a little bit odd not to be able to celebrate with all the family. We were supposed to go back east. We're going to stay here and have a Zoom Seder. A lot of people are going to be doing that. So let's get started really quickly. Charoset. This is my job when I go back east. I make charoset, but like I said, I make so much of it, and people love it so that we eat it throughout the entire meal. It's kind of like just on the table in big bowls, not just in a little plate on the Seder plate. So I'm going to give you that recipe, and we're going to be making it. This should go pretty quickly because charoset is, it's all about a lot of different ingredients that you have available to you. We are going to be making my personal favorite, and it's going to involve only about 5 or 6 different ingredients, but it's important that the process that we marinate, that we let those flavors kind of come together in a Ziploc bag that you might even do overnight or even that morning prior to the Seder. And then all that beautiful flavor is going to come together, and you're going to have the best charoset you've ever had in your life. So, first things first, what do we need to do?
Wash our hands.
We need to wash our hands. Zoe's very good at washing her hands at this point. Well, our hands are really dry. And by the way, has everybody experienced really dry hands because you've been washing so much? You can go for it. So, lotion up, right? Keep those hands so that they're not so dry, but don't stop washing because they're getting dry. You need to keep those hands clean. When we wash our hands, we're doing so for 20 seconds, keeping them clean. I'm going to do the same. We're making bubbles. We are not going to sing for you. And then we're going to get started. So, Chef Laney, do we have anybody who's asked any questions about what we're making this week?
Our friend Julian, he's 9 years old, and he's been to his grandmother's Seder for 5 years. And last year, he also went on the second night to his friend's Seder and noticed that the charoset that was used at his friend's house was super different than his grandmother's Seder. And
Cool.
He wants to know why that is.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you very much for the question. So, really good question. Remember I said just a little bit ago, it's all about what you have available to you. So, there are literally hundreds upon hundreds of different kinds of charoset recipes. Why do you think that might be?
Different cultures?
Yeah, totally. Wherever you live, look, back in the day, a long time ago, you ate what you grew, or you ate what grew around you. There wasn't such thing as Vons or Gelson's or Smart and Final. You couldn't go down the store and get something from across the world. You could only eat what was around you. So therefore, there are so many different charoset recipes. There's an Israeli charoset, there's an Indian charoset, there's an Afghani charoset, there's a Greek charoset, there's a Spanish charoset, and then obviously we have an Ashkenazi American charoset. This is most similar to that charoset, but whatever was around you was what you ate. So I'm sure his friend was perhaps a different culture than the grandmother, and so the grandma has a different recipe than the friend, and this is why. And so let's dive in. But before we do that, Charoset. What do you remember from the Haggadah that the Charoset is supposed to represent? Do you remember?
Sweetness?
Okay, so it is sweet in flavor, but in the Haggadah it also says it's supposed to resemble the mortar that was used in the bricks that the Jews made the buildings from, which is an interesting thing because we're eating bitter herbs. And we're eating a lot of, and we're doing dipping in salt water to remember tears. And so it's a lot of bitterness. It's a lot of bad memories. And the Charoset is kind of a dual meaning because it's what I said, which was resembling the mortar or the cement. And it's totally what Zoe said, because if you think about it, it's really sweet. So if the cement is meant to emulate the mortar and the remembering of the bitter times, what is the sweetness, do you think? What is that supposed to signify?
The freedom?
Excellent. Absolutely. We haven't gone over this, so she's nailing it. So, yes. So it's about freedom. We're all about brand new. All of these Jews have fled Egypt. And they are about to be free for the first time in generations and generations and generations. This is going to play into our midrash that we're going to talk about in a little while about Nachshon. Nachshon is the unsung hero that I was alluding to earlier, and we're going to talk about why he's an unsung hero and the choice he makes as a free man. All right, so before we get into that, let's get into this. I have washed all of the area over here. Our knives are clean. We have an apple here. We're going to start with the apple. The apple is a Granny Smith apple. Look, I'm all about the layering of flavors. You already know that. So we're going to provide different flavors. I could choose a red, delicious apple. I could choose a Fuji apple. I could choose lots of Macintosh. There are lots of different kinds. There's literally 100 different kinds of apples. But I'm choosing a Granny Smith. First of all, a Granny Smith has a little bit more bite to it after I marinate it overnight, so I'm still going to get a little bit of a crunch. But what flavor does a Granny Smith have?
It's a little sour.
Yeah, it's a little tart, right? So you are going to get kind of a melding of flavors because a lot of this stuff is going to be sweet, really sweet, and you're going to have the tartness of the apple, and I like how the tartness plays off of the sweetness so it's not overly sweet. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So you're going to peel the apple, which I have already done, and you're going to have it right here. We're going to do a very, very quick bear claw lesson. Everybody with your holding hand make a bear claw. Your holding hand is here, your cutting hand holds the knife. If you're a really young one, you're going to use a plastic knife with mom and dad for sure. And then you're going to make your bear claw, and I'm going to cut around the core of the apple. We don't need the core. And then I created a flat side. Flat things don't do what?
Move.
They don't move, they don't roll around. I would never cut this on this side. It's rolling all over the place. I could cut myself. So I'm going to put it on the flat side. Chef Zoe's going to put hers on her flat side. We're going to share. And then I'm going to take my bear claw and I'm going to take my knuckles and it's going to guide me all the way down. Now, I'm cutting like this because I want you to do that if you have a plastic knife. If you have a metal knife like this, you're going to do it like Chef Zoe did, which is it's never leaving the surface of the table. So watch. So every time I cut, I'm moving my bear claws down, okay? You see that all of these are same size pieces. Same size pieces are good, okay? And so what you're going to want to do ultimately at that point is then turn them around and you're going to make like a little fine dice, okay? Something along those lines. I'm going to cut these really quickly. And then we're going to start adding other ingredients. Now, here's the thing, we're not cooking this. So ordinarily I say bear claw makes same size pieces. Same size pieces are good when we cook because they cook evenly. One piece is not raw while the other piece is done. Clearly, this is not a bad thing to eat raw apple. So we're not worried about that, but I want all the pieces to be the same size because when you stick them in your mouth, you know, you want all the pieces to kind of taste uniform, have some sense of uniformity. I don't want a huge piece and a tiny piece of raisin or walnut. So, what we're gonna do is Zoe's gonna take this bowl, and we're gonna stick the apples in, and then I'm gonna show you what we're gonna do. We have our other ingredients. So, look, this recipe calls, most Charoset recipes have some kind of nut in them, and so what I'm using is walnuts. If you want to, you can use almonds, you can use different kind of nuts, whatever you want. Except if you're really observant, you're not going to be using peanuts, but walnuts are usually a classic ingredient in Charoset. So I purchased whole walnuts, but we still need to cut those down. So I'm gonna, Chef Zoe and I are going to cut these down just a little bit. I'm gonna add the rest of my apple in, and then you see, it's just gonna be a quick rough chop. And you can do this at home. The young ones, they take one piece at a time and they cut them up just like this. And you don't have to be too small, okay? You want them, again, about bite size, just like this, all right? So this is going in. And by the way, if you do have an allergy, you can absolutely leave out the nuts. And if you want that crunchy texture, what I have done is at the last second, because you don't want it to get soggy, I have actually broken up matzah. Little pieces of matzah. You know matzah farfel? Matzah farfel is just little bits of broken up matzah. You can either take matzah farfel or you can actually just take pieces of matzah, crumble them up at the last second before you serve your charoset, stick it in the charoset, and then you have that same kind of crunch that the walnut provides. So it's a texture thing. The walnuts not only provide taste, they provide texture too. All right, so we are going to, you can give that a quick mix. We're gonna start adding our ingredients really fast here. So we have dried fruit. Dried fruit is integral. So I have two different kinds of dried fruit. I have dried cherries. Most people don't do that. It's really kind of cool, adds a little bit of a tang and a really good sweetness. And then I have golden raisins. And so I like golden raisins. So that's what I add. It's my recipe. I get to do what I want. So we're gonna add these in just like this. And you'll be able to.
We have a question about golden raisins.
Golden raisin question. Fire away, Lainey.
So our friend Chloe, she is 11, and she wants to know what's the difference between golden raisins and just normal purple raisin.
So, okay, good question. A lot of people ask that in our classes. So the difference between golden raisins, I prefer golden raisins over those really dark raisins. What's the difference? They come from the same grape, basically, except the process by drying them is very different. The regular darker raisins that you often eat are dried over a much longer period of time by the sun. Again, it's weeks and weeks longer. The golden raisins are dried as well, but not by the sun. They are dehydrated in a machine. There's other stuff added to them, and for a much shorter period of time. So you get a different product, because there is definitely a different flavor profile that's different from golden to regular. Use what you like. But essentially that's the major difference. It's the manner in which they're dried out and the length of time that they're dried out. And it does yield a little bit of a different flavor. And even if you feel the raisin, you'll notice that the golden raisin's a little bit larger and plumper, right? Than the other raisin, which has been dried out. And that stands to reason, right? If you dry something out, you're taking the water out, it's gonna shrivel up even more, yes? Mm-hmm. So that's why that is the case. Awesome question, really good one. All right. Very quickly, here are some more ingredients that a lot of people don't use. Well, one, especially, we have pomegranate seeds. These are really yummy because they pop inside your mouth, they're really sweet, and they have a really good lesson as far as Judaism is concerned. They're likened to the mitzvot because the same number of mitzvot that there are aligned with the number of pomegranate seeds inside of a pomegranate. So we're going to add that in really quickly. And also, by the way, it adds an amazing color. You see the color that those pomegranate seeds add? And so that's really cool too. We're going to add a little bit of honey. The honey's gonna add, again, that sweetness that's gonna play really well off of the tartness of the apple, of this particular apple. And then I'm gonna add some cinnamon. And that's gonna get mixed in by Chef Zoe. And then it's time to add liquid, because we have to marinate these, and these are going to marinate, like I said, the longer the better. Overnight works for me. Usually, like I said, I make this the day of the first Seder. I make enough that I don't have to make it again for the second Seder. What happens is, because it marinates overnight, the second Seder batch is actually, right?
Yeah.
It's totally better because it has played together all night long in that Ziploc, and all of those flavors have really combined to yield an amazing, amazing product. So, Chef Zoe has combined these beautifully, and so what I'm going to do now is add liquid. So I add two different kinds of liquid. The first is grape juice. So this is just plain old grape juice. This is going to go in. Again, you really want to add enough that it's going to submerge the fruit and the nuts. The second is good old Manischewitz wine. Manischewitz wine is really good for this because, again, it adds that sweetness. The alcohol level is not that high. We're going to add about another half cup of Manischewitz wine, and then you're going to see that when all this is said and done, our Charoset is going to get really, really, really purple, and that purple is coming from both of those, the wine and the grape juice coming together. So this is it. We're pretty much done with our ingredients. It's that quick and it's that fast. However, it is by no means ready to eat right now. And so what we really want to do is we want to take a Ziploc out. And so you're seeing right here all of the ingredients kind of mixing together. And you see how much liquid I have. You will see that this liquid will be absorbed by the dried fruit, by the apple, even by the walnut a little bit, and you're gonna see that you will end up with far less liquid than you started with. And so what we're gonna do is we are literally just going to put all of this in to our Ziploc, okay? Just like this. That was pretty good. I don't think we spilled, oh, we have a tiny spill. So look, this is what I have. I'm going to seal this up. I'm going to get the air out, and I'm going to mix this up just like this. And then this is what's going to go into my refrigerator. It's going to stay there for about, well, however long you have. So if it's like 3, 4, 5 hours before the Seder, that's great. Overnight, even better. And then, where is my? All right, Chef Zoe's going to look for the finished product, and then when we bring that out, you'll see what it looks like. But now I want to get to the Nachshon question. Unless Chef Leni, you have another question, do you? Or no?
She's 15 years old, and she loves pomegranates, but it takes her forever to take the pomegranate seeds out of the pomegranate. So she should know if there's any tricks to getting pomegranate seeds out faster.
Yes, there is. There is definitely a trick to getting pomegranate seeds out of a pomegranate. A lot of times people struggle with pomegranates. They get really messy. The pomegranate juice gets on your fingers, stains your fingers. So I don't have one with me, but here's the way you do it. First of all, pomegranates are like, you know how you peel an orange and they're kind of, when you do it in sections. You'll notice that the pomegranate has natural sections to it. You could score around those sections and actually peel them down. That's number one. And then what you want to do is turn it over, and this is also where you can get your frustrations out. You can take a wooden spoon. You can do this two ways. You can cut it in half, or you can do it in the sections. But if you turn it upside down and just knock on the top of the pomegranate, really go at it, you're going to see that the seeds just come loose and come right out, and you don't even have to touch the seeds. It's literally just about a wooden spoon on the top of the pomegranate, hitting it just on the top or all the way around, and you will notice that those seeds come right out really easily. There you go. It's that simple. So, Chef Zoe has found the elusive Charoset that has been marinating for a good probably 5-6 hours. You can see that even though there's some liquid, it's way less than we started with.
And the apples are more purple.
And the apples are totally purple. So what you're going to do is you're going to fill this up, and while you do that, we're going to talk about Nachshon. So here's the story about Nachshon. So all the Jews left Egypt in a big hurry because Pharaoh had changed his mind and said, okay, you can go, and you know Pharaoh is going to change his mind yet again because he's going to come after the Jews. All the Jews get to the sea and they are stuck because they see Pharaoh coming from behind and the sea in front, and there's no way out. And so what happens is they're faced with this dilemma, and Moses asks God what to do, and he says to talk to the people, and he asks the people to move into the water. Well, nobody does, except for one man. Its name is Nachshon. Nachshon actually has the distinction of being Aaron's brother-in-law. So Nachshon married Aaron's sister, and Nachshon steps forward where nobody else would. He goes into the water. And now what you need to know is he supposedly, according to the Midrash, he doesn't know how to swim. And so all of his family is freaking out. What are you doing? What are you doing? He goes up to his ankles, he goes up to his knees, up to his waist, and he goes up to where if he passes his nose, what can he do?
Breathe.
Cannot breathe. At that moment, Moses then says to God, what should he do? And then God says, stick your staff in. And at that point, and only that point, does the sea split and the Jews are saved. So there are a couple of questions that we can ask about Nachshon. And the reason I say that you don't see this in the movie. You don't see about Nachshon. All you see is Moses being the hero and sticking his staff in.
Prince of Egypt.
The Prince of Egypt, right? Or the Ten Commandments. And so there are two questions that I have, and it's going to relate back to a lesson that Rabbi Schulweis had talked about in terms of making God a verb and not a noun, right? So God is a noun. We pray to God for miracles, but Rabbi Schulweis said you need to do something that's called predicate theology, very fancy word for making God a verb. So how do you make God a verb?
You act godly.
You act godlike. Excellent. So, godly, exactly. You do action. Verbs are action words, right? So tell me there are two things that I want to know. And so one is, why did Nachshon do what he did? And why did God wait for Nachshon to do what he did before he told Moses to split the sea? So what do you think? Why did Nachshon do what he did?
He wanted to step forward.
Okay, good. So he wanted to step forward. He also had faith. Makes sense?
Faith in God.
So let's go with why did God wait? Why did God wait for Nachshon to do that? Why do you think? Why didn't God just say, go for it, let's split the sea?
He maybe was hoping that someone would like Nachshon would have the faith in him.
Excellent answer. I think what God was looking for at that point was, hey, I need to see if these people are from me. I'm going to help these people, but these people have to know that I'm delivering them out of slavery, and so they have to live, and work for themselves as well, right, for their own cause. And so maybe he was waiting to see that level of faith or that level of initiative. So that's a good answer. So Nachshon steps forward and does what he does because he had faith. But I think, this is just me, this is again just Chef Danny's take. Nachshon did what he did because at that second he was different than any of his ancestors, his father's 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 father. What was different about him than them?
He was free.
Excellent. Awesome answer. He was free. He was at that second a free man. Okay, so he's got a choice as a free man that his ancestors never had. Okay, from a long time ago, maybe. So he could do one of two things. He could go back there, and he's been back there, and he knows he's not going back there. Right? He's not going back to Egypt. So there's only one way forward. Mm-hmm. Forward. There's only one way out. That's forward. So he's going to go forward, and if he's going to die, he's going to die as a what?
As a free man.
Thank you. He's going to die as a free man. He's not going to die as a slave, okay? But I think he actually knows that's not going to happen. And I think that's the sweetness. That is the sweetness of this Charoset, that we're celebrating the fact that we are free. Interesting, we're free, but we're in our homes a little trapped. However, Rabbi Feinstein is also a teacher of mine. He said Karpas is also representing newness, right? The spring, the green that's flourishing, that when we eat Karpas, we should go around the table and tell one thing that we can celebrate that's new. And freedom is new. And that moment for Nachshon, freedom was new. And so Zoe put it really aptly, and this is where Rabbi Schulweis comes in. So we're supposed to step forward. And I would say to you that Nachshon was definitely making God a verb. Mm-hmm. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Because Nachshon could have just sat back and said, I'm just going to wait with everybody else. But that's not what he did. He stepped forward. So how do you make God a verb in 2020? What do you do to make God a verb?
You think about others.
Excellent. You think about others before maybe you think about yourselves, because thank God we're okay. What else do you do? Now, how do you think about others, by the way?
You put everything into perspective.
Yeah.
Acknowledge what you're grateful for.
And I think this holiday is about going around the table, acknowledging what we're grateful for. Even though we're stuck in our homes, there's so much we can be thankful for. And I think that's our opportunity to do for others that need that help, whether they be homeless or hungry. Look, I tell this to really little kids. Every single Friday in the entire city of Los Angeles, there's a mom that's opening up the refrigerator, and there's going to be no food in that refrigerator for that child, that family to eat. But at some point during the day, she's going to go to Sova. You know what Sova is, right? It's a Jewish food pantry. They don't just serve Jews. She's going to get a box, and in that box is going to be maybe chicken and maybe salad and soup and maybe some challah. And that night, they're going to have a meal in front of them that didn't exist that morning, and they're going to say it's a
miracle.
It's a miracle. Now, who made that miracle? Did God say, poof, there's the food?
No.
Who made the miracle?
Everyone else.
We did. We made the miracle. And as Rabbi Schulweis said, this is how you make God a verb. And so when we're making our charoset, I want you to make it with the love and knowledge that you are making something that will allow you, like Nachshon, to step forward in your world and make it a better place. And this is how we get better together. So I think it's time to eat some charoset. What do you say?
Yes.
So obviously, when you're making a Hillel sandwich, you're doing so with some matzah, which I have in the cabinet, and we don't need to get to that until next week. So this is the beauty of this dish. You can eat it on its own. Literally, it is a course at our Seder. It is not just something that you take on a piece of matzah and then move on to the next thing. This is a course in the Seder. Cheers to you.
Cheers.
What does that make you think of?
Nachshon.
Does it make you think of sitting around our Seder plate for the last however many years? Brings back so many great memories, and that's what this does. You make this every year, you'll make memories of your own. So what do we taste? We taste the sweetness of the cherries and of the wine and
crunchy walnuts.
Crunchy walnuts, crunchy apples, but that tartness of the apple, it all really melds together so beautifully. So there you have it. Passover is coming up. I hope you have a fantastic and wonderful holiday. Chag Sameach. Chef Lini, thank you so much for joining us and for the fantastic questions. We appreciate you. Have a wonderful holiday. Zoe, as always, we appreciate you. If you want the recipe, email us at info@culinarykidsacademy.com. info@culinarykidsacademy.com. Thank you so much for joining us in Shalom CKA. We will see you next time. Take care.